Welcome to Trenchometry. If you've spent any time in or around the trenches, playing offensive line isn't just blocking, it's chess at light speed. You're controlling angles while a 280-pound plus defender tries to destroy your running back. Every snap, calculate leverage, mirror footwork, and anchor yourself against pure violence. Miss one step and your franchise player gets flattened. We're here to discuss the most undervalued aspect of the game, the offensive line. And remember this, if you master the trenches, you win the war. My guest today comes to us from north of the border. After a very successful career at the University of Laval, where he was leading his team to 2 Vanier Cups and was recognized as twice being All-Canadian first team, my guest spent some time with the New York Giants and eventually was drafted by the Alouettes of the CFL. He played 3 seasons up there with the Alouettes and the Elks and retired in 2023. He roams the sidelines as the offensive line coach for Concordia University up in Montreal, and he's the content creator and business owner of OL Prototype. Today, welcome Mr. Samuel Thomassin. Thank you, Samuel, for being here, and I'm excited to have some chats with you about what I'm passionate about, offensive line. It'll give us an opportunity to kind of learn some of the game today that's different from the Canadian rules to the American rules of football. So why don't you start us off and give us a little bit of explanation of what your football career was and what you played, kind of how that went for you while you were in school.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I always like to share and talk about the offensive linemen. I'm a recently young coach. I just stopped playing, right? So I'm 30 years old. I have the opportunity to have a full-time job now in university here in Montreal with Concordia. For me, football has been a passion since I was 9 years old. Like a lot of Canadians, started to play hockey, switched to football early on because I was getting a lot of 2 minutes penalties in hockey. Guys were going to me, falling down, and my dad at some point said, yeah, well, let's try something else. So we went into football, and I fell in love with the sport right away. For me, it's the ultimate team sport, and especially playing offensive lineman, you're doing a job that not everyone sees. You're not always getting recognized and all that. And I found something I really liked about that position, right? So for me, it has been only good. Played football my whole career in Canada. High school, here in Quebec, we have CEGEP as well, which is in between high school and university, and then went to University Laval, where I had a great career. Personal point, and as a team as well, we went to 3 championships in a row, won 2. I lost 1 in between, learned a lot of stuff, and it led me to have an opportunity to be drafted in the CFL. Minicamp, like you said, with the Giants. So it's been a hell of a ride for me. Football has given me so much, and now it's my turn, I feel, to give back to younger players and try to give them everything that I learned throughout my career as a player now, and bring them some new insight, especially with the younger generation that we have nowadays.
That's phenomenal and fantastic. Impressive career there that you had with 2 championships out of 3. Anybody that has a chance to compete for one had a couple chances to win some state championships down here in Florida, and had also this opportunity to lose one as well, which never ever goes away. It stinks that people have to experience that, and though I won a couple, the one that I lost is the one that sticks in my brain most of the time. Dang, it's tough sometimes to get over that, but we're not going to cry over spilled milk. There's no use in doing that. So quickly, differences between Canadian football and American football. Some of the people might not know there's a difference, but I know you got an extra guy on the field and 2 guys can be moving at once. And you only get 3 downs. I know that too. So I guess only having 3 downs, that's going to kind of change the strategy of how you would go about offensively approaching a series if you only have 3 downs. So essentially you're playing on 2 downs, or do you go for it on 3rd down a lot? How does that work? What's the mindset for that?
Yeah, so for sure we had the extra player, but the field dimensions are bigger as well. 65 yards of width, 110 of length, end zones of 20 yards. Now, recently the CFL announced that they're going to change some rules. We have goalposts at the beginning of the end zone as well in the Canadian football game. But yet 3 down is a big change compared to the American game. For sure, play calling is going to be different, but depending on what type of schemes you want to run or what type of offense you have. Now, the biggest difference is going to be the special teams. Special teams in Canadian football are so important, and they can change a game really quick. The thing as well is that it's easy to get discouraged in 3rd down football offensively, because it's going to happen that you get 2 and out and you get off the field and they go back. But sometimes people say it's only 3 down football, you can run the ball and all that. I don't find it's true. Like when I was playing university with Laval, we were a team that ran the ball a lot. Like my last 2 years, we were a heavy run team, play action, all that stuff. So
Hmm.
depending with what the tools that you have and all that, for sure is going to affect the game. The time clock is different as well. So one thing I like a lot about the Canadian football is that with 2.5 minutes left, like you can have the ball 2 times. So it's not like the American game where you can kill the clock and all that. So the game ending are really interesting and the games are played till the end. So I encourage a lot of people to watch CFL as well. It's a different football for sure, but for me, it's really exciting as well.
And when is the Canadian Football League season? That's different than the NFL. Aren't you guys more of like earlier? You're done earlier in the kind of like the
So
summertime, right?
yeah, exact. So the camp start in May. So early mid May, the camp start. Then the season starts June, and they end up in November.
Right. Okay. So you
So
guys are
that's the
ending a little bit
season for the
earlier.
CFL. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then like for us, university, our season starts in August. And then we end up same time as them, November, as well
Okay.
with the weather in Canada. I played a couple games in the snow up here, so it's different.
And it's not just a little bit of snow, it's significant amounts of snow, I would assume. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I didn't think about that. You mentioned the special teams plays a big role. I mean, you're thinking, I don't know, in a typical American football rules game, you're probably going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 30 snaps on special teams maybe in a game with punts and kickoffs and all that stuff. I didn't even think about that. That probably adds another, what, 30%, probably 45, 50 plays a game on special teams, maybe somewhere around there
Yeah, I
on
would say
average.
something like 40, 45, depending on how your team performs and all that, right? So for sure, if your offense is moving the ball, has a lot of success, you're not going to punt that much. But yeah, punt and punt return are two units that are involved a lot in Canadian football, and it's that unit as well as the opportunity to change the game, right?
Hmm.
Big returns. So yeah, so we don't have the fair catch as well. We have a halo of 5 yards to respect. So there's a lot of things like that are different, especially on the offense as well. We have a lot of motions that we can do, movement behind the line, like you talked about.
Hmm.
So I think those are things that are unique about our game, and I find it nice. I played that game for a long time now. One thing that we have that is different as well up here in Quebec, we play mixed football. So when I grew up, high school and CJEP, we played with the same fields, but we play 4 down football.
Okay.
So yeah. So and then when you go into university, now we play 3 ball. But now in the rest of Canada, like if you go in BC, Ottawa, those places, they play a lot more 3 down football even when they're younger. So
Okay.
in Quebec, we're a bit different. So yeah.
All right. So as you are approaching a game in Canada, and you said you kind of were run heavy that you mentioned earlier. So you're going to run the ball.
Well,
So they
I
are
like to.
you like to be you would prefer to be,
Yeah,
I guess. As offensive line
I
coaches,
always like to run the
I
ball.
always said two things can happen that are bad when you throw the ball, and one thing could be good when you throw the ball. I was always playing the percentage there. I didn't like that very much myself. So how do you're going to go about developing the same skills? I guess you're probably gonna have to focus a little bit more on pass preparation and your pass skills because you want to move the ball up the field. The field position aspect of Canadian football seems like it's much
It's
more
crucial.
burdened than if it was just like down here in American football like that. You got to get that field, you got to move the field and flip the field as best you can. And so you want to try to get as many yards as you can. And so you can put that special teams out there and your punt's your best offensive weapon at that point. So what are you prioritizing when you're sitting down with you get a freshman kid coming into the university and you got to teach him what are the first couple skills that you're teaching these new freshmen as they come into your program?
Well, for me, I like to have complete offensive linemen for sure. For us, I think the run game helps to open the passing game as well, right? In our league, you're going to have to pass at some point. It's inevitable. So us, if we go 1st and 10, we do a run of 1 yard or no yard, we're already in 2nd and long, which is 3rd and long, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it means pressure downs, twists, stunts, all that stuff. So for sure, we got to be efficient on 1st and 10 in our league in the run game. Now, I think there's a lot of ways, depending on your schemes, if you're more zone type, a gap scheme, all that stuff. But for sure, protection is going to be something that's really important. And for
Yeah.
me, what I saw with the younger guys coming from the levels under, the biggest thing that they have to adapt to is to see different structures, moving fronts, movement,
Mm.
all that stuff, right? When you draw plays versus a base 40 front, all that stuff, normally that's not where you're going to have issues, right? It's about winning one-on-ones, respecting
Right.
your rules, and all that stuff. When all of that starts to move, well, that's when it starts to get tricky for the offensive lineman, right? So it's a lot of those situations for us in three-down
Right.
football is right when you get in second and mid to second and long, right, it's passing down most of the time, right? So
You're going to see a lot of
it's about
garbage.
yeah, it's about understanding those situations and be ready for it. So I find that my job is to get the guys ready for those. So as much as I can technically, but to see the looks as well and when to expect those, what type of movements that team they like to do this stunt or this type of pressure out of that front. But when they're in that structure, they don't want to move that much, all that stuff, right?
Right. So what is it that you're doing mentally to train those guys? Is there something that you're doing? Is it a walkthrough? Is it video? Obviously, you're going to have some walkthroughs and some video coverage, but are you prioritizing one over another? Are you to get those guys understanding? I know when I was in college, our coach used to give us weekly paper quizzes and we had to draw our
Yeah.
schemes in. And it seems so antiquated nowadays, but I really think that has a lot to do with getting guys all on the same page that if you can write it down on paper and you can see it in person, you can kind of start connecting some dots there. So is there a drill or an aspect that you are asking your young guys to do that will help them develop that ability to see the garbage coming at them and the twists and the stunts and you got 12 guys on the field. There's you still only got 5 offensive linemen, right? That 12th guy is usually a
Yeah.
skill guy if I remember correctly. And so that means there's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
skill guy on the defensive side of the ball too that can come on in there and blitz.
Yeah. So for me, I like quizzes as well, but I use them
Mm,
more in the off season.
okay.
So it's not something I'm going to use a lot in season, but I find in the off season, especially with younger guys coming in, it's going to help you as well as a coach to see who really understands
Mhm.
the big picture and who doesn't. Then in season, I like to try to switch from video walkthrough because when you keep the guys too long in a room, they lost their level of concentration, right? So that's something I tried this year to do the correction by video and then go do a walkthrough on the field, but to correct
Mhm.
the same things, but walk it, right? To see it, to
Right.
communicate it,
Right.
to verbalize it. And I find so far this year that this gives results as well. Cause you got a lot of different type of learners as well, right? So some guys are
Right.
visual, some guys need to do it, some guys they can just see it and then they memorize it. So I know I was the type of guy that I needed to practice it and to do it, right? Or to draw it up. Just seeing it was not enough for me, right? So I'm trying to be conscious and mindful of all that stuff to try to work with different ways with the guys. I'm going to send the guys as well every week. I draw all the pressures by down and distance that the certain team that we're playing is doing. So the visual guy or the guy so I'm telling the guys, if you want to practice plays or draw it, don't draw it versus just anything, right? Use those drawings. So you're practicing versus something that you're going to see this week, right? So yeah, so for me, it's trying to find the more different ways that I can to help them to be prepared for that game so that they've seen it so many times in different ways. It's just more reps for them.
Right. And the good thing, I'm sure that this is a component of it too, is they hear your voice in their head while you're walking through. They're seeing things, and I was always trying to get my monologue in their brain. So they heard me talking in their brain when things were going on, and it would hopefully click. They could recall it, quicker with my words there instead of trying to put their words to it. But you're telling them, eyes here, feet here, hands here. Look at this guy. When
Yeah.
you see this, you're threatened here, and you got to support this, and all that stuff that you can kind of put those one-liners in their brain, so that when all of a sudden when it gets live fire and things start flying around, there's something for them to fall back on and relate to. So as you're getting these guys kind of mentally settled, I'm assuming that you're teaching the same pass skills, pass set skills, punch, balance, stance, that kind of thing. What's the biggest priority physically wise? Like the biggest skill that you try to emphasize with your guys but actually, before you answer that, tell me this: are most of your guys that are coming in as freshmen to your university, are they going to be redshirted? We would redshirt them down here in America, where they wouldn't play that first year, and so you have them at the end of their career when they're a little bit older and more advanced in knowledge and skills and strength and all that stuff. Is that something that happens in the Canadian university system also?
It depends because here in Quebec, Montreal, we have like a university like Concordia. We have guys from everywhere in Quebec. We have some guys from Ontario. We have some guys from different places, right? So we're an
Mhm.
Anglophone team playing in a Francophone conference, right? So it gives us access to a lot of different type of players or players if you want.
Mhm.
Now, Us in Quebec, the guys arrive in college at 19 years old, right? So they're a bit older than you guys when they come in
Right.
as freshmen, right?
Right.
So at that age, it happens that some guys they have impact in their first year. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say though, with offensive linemen, I find it's a position that always take a good year to settle in. Us as well, we have a difference. There's a yard between the line of scrimmage and the defender.
Hmm.
So it's a big adjustment for some guys. So you talked about the sets. So for us guards and centers, it's super important to not give a lot of space on the line
Hmm.
because you already have a yard, right? Now tackles in your one-on-ones are going to be in more space, right? I often heard when I was younger, the worst enemies in pass protection are time and space, right?
Yeah.
So for tackles, you need guys that can move and that can win pass pro one-on-ones, especially in 3-down football. That's going to be a big aspect of it, right? So understanding the angles of the sets is going to be a big difference for us because when the level they play younger, they don't have the yard in high school or
Hmm.
CJEP. So when they come to our level, now there's a yard, so everything changes. So it's a huge adjustment for those guys. So I think that's something that takes a little bit of time on the offensive line position compared to maybe a skill guy that, yes, the speed's going to be different. There's going to be bigger guys, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you run a route, you catch a ball. It's going to be pretty much the same thing.
That yard that the defense is off the ball, not only in pass pro, but I would think that in run blocking, that could wreak havoc on you as well, play a big difference in, you're taking a run block, you're drive blocking that guy's head up on you. And next thing you know, he's moving, slanting, twisting. He's not where you thought he was going to be when you take your first step. That would be a big adjustment for the way I was approaching things down here. Cause it's almost like you got to take a settle step when you're run blocking there instead of a straight drive coming off the ball hard. You kind of have to be able to react and readjust. Is that
Yeah,
something
you always
is
have
that
to
true?
be.
Am I thinking the right way
No,
there?
no, no. You're right on. For sure, I find there's a lot of movement in our game on the defensive fronts, especially in our league right now, university in Quebec. But in general, Canadian football, you're gonna see fronts moving, especially with that yards easier, like you said,
Hmm.
the slant. So I like the guys though to still win that line of scrimmage and attack
Hmm.
it, cover ground. Because sometimes when you settle and you want to react and see what's going on, it's gonna be tough to win that yard and win that line of
Hmm.
scrimmage. So yeah, it's gonna change the angles as well. Let's say you have a backside cutoff, well, you gotta freaking go as well because that guy can slant toward the center and have more space. Now it's completely different. Let's say from a center in your game that has a guy right into his face. When I watch some ball down south, you look at centers in the NFL having a guy like that just retired like Aaron Donald right in his
Right
face.
there.
It's a complete different game, right? So that changes a lot, yeah, for sure in the trenches for us. But no, the steps I like to keep them still going and
Mm.
aggressive and covering ground. You want to win that yard as fast as possible.
Do you guys I'm assuming that to help avoid the movement issues with run blocks, and you're gonna try to work tandems and dual blocks as best you can, so you got 2 guys on 1 to kinda mitigate that movement. So if he moves towards, if the center and the left guard are working together towards a left side run and you got a guy on the left guard, that allows them to kinda take aggressive steps and play that read it as you go, right? I'm assuming that's probably a way to mitigate
Yeah,
some of that movement.
100%. And the way I teach it as well is always going to be with the alignment, the linebacker, right? So
Mhm.
depending where that guy is going to be in your double team is going to tell you how much more aggressive you can be, or
Mhm.
if your guard needs to leave faster, now the center has to take it over faster, all that stuff, right? So it's all going to be affected with the alignment of those guys. But yeah, combinations is going to be a pretty much like you guys do in your game as well.
Yeah. Okay, so back to that I got distracted with that. All of a sudden I started thinking about, wait a minute, there's an extra guy out there, and wait a second, all that, So you back to that pass block, you mentioned the tackles. They're on an island. They're going to be on a big lonely island pretty much every play when it comes down to
Yeah,
pass blocking, I assume.
yeah. So when I watch, in the States, a lot of times you're going to see guys setting a bit more vertical.
Mhm.
Us, it's going to be more on a 30 to 45-degree angle with that yard. So setting to the spot, it's the same term that we use. It's just that spot is going to be a bit different at times with the extra space that we have in between. So that's when we talked about freshmen coming in. That's a learning curve that they have to
Mhm.
do because when they arrive from CJAP here in Quebec, well, they play nose to nose, right? So you want a short set, jumps at people, you're right next to those guys as well, right?
Yeah.
So us is going to be a little bit different. So there's going to be a slight adjustment with that. And when I look at my young tackles I have, let's say this year, you can see that it takes some time and it takes a lot of repetitions before they trust it, right? So yeah, that's a big aspect as well. And for the inside guys, it's about being flat, right? You don't want to give any more ground to those guys. They already have like space in between. So
Hmm.
backing up is not something that we do a lot, depending if we want to play like dual sword technique or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, they want to play more flat.
So are your tackles, are they stationary? Are they gonna be stationary once they hit that spot? Or are they, because I'm just thinking if that guy's running, if the defensive end's running and he's got a yard start, he's gonna be darn near full speed by the time he gets to your tackle. But if you tackle
Yeah.
stationary and flat-footed, waiting, he's kinda gonna be at a disadvantage. Is there some way to combat that? Or is that just you gotta hook him up while he's running and just kind of try to fend him off wide?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's something that for the past 2 years I've worked a lot with the guys to keep your feet active all the time, right? So we have
Mhm,
a pre-practice drill that we do. It's just striking with the pop-ups, right, with timing of the strike. But
mhm.
you got to keep your feet active the whole time that you do that, right? Because it's easy to get to the spot, strike, and now think that you're going to be engaged. But now in our game, with the space that we have, that guy's going to keep going upfield or he's going to counter back and all that stuff, right? Same as you guys do, is just for me, there's a big emphasis to try to keep the feet moving at all time. That being said, we talked about being anchored in the ground as well, right? So you want to do that without being light on your feet as well, right? So that's another curve of learning that you need to have when you come into our level as an
Lot
offensive lineman.
lot of nuance in the Canadian league as far as
Yeah.
the Canadian rules go that I hadn't really thought about until you mentioned those things and my brain starts going, "Okay, wait a minute. There's a lot of space out there. That guy's gotta move. If he's moving too much, then he's opened himself up to the bull rush. If he's too stationary, the guy's gonna speed rush him right past him." Like, all those little
That's
adjustments
it.
kinda start kicking in there, and it's like, "Oh, man, I hadn't," I don't really think about that, like, in that way, so it's a whole new paradigm to look at for me.
Yeah, that's it. We talk a lot about setting square to that spot because the
Mhm.
moment it's easy to open your hips quick with those guys, especially that want to go with fast get off. I have a good friend of mine who plays in the CFL, Matthew Betts, who's probably the best DN right now in that league, who was a bit with the Bears, and then he had a trial with the Detroit Lions. And when we played together in college, that's just all he did, getting off the ball as fast as possible and getting around those tackles, right? So quick defenders get around, like it creates a good angle for them, right? So you got to
Mhm.
intersect that. But the second we open our hips as offensive linemen, we get ourselves in a bad position.
Yeah.
Now it's about trying to ride them around and all that, but setting a square to that spot is going to be crucial for us, and that's something that the younger guys, it's new to them when they come in, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
As soon as those hips get perpendicular to the line of scrimmage, you have no way of you have nothing strong. There's no weight room exercises that go like this to develop
no,
strength. You get really weak really fast when those hips get 90 degrees. All
hundred
right,
percent.
so as you guys are doing those pass set drills and you're keeping your feet moving, what are your other, I don't know, one or two drills that you do for pass pro or pass blocking that you think are paramount to being done? Or there's something you're going to do every day to make sure that these guys are developing that skill? What are your one or two drills that you would do for that?
Yeah, well, for sure the pass sets are going to be worked on. Now, I like to work the redirect as well, right? So getting to the spot and moving around, work different type of strikes. I think for me, it's important to know what type of rusher you're facing. You're going to face, like for me, the most difficult rushers that you have are the guys that can do anything, right? Like we talked about an Aaron Donald earlier. He can do power and finesse. He can mix it around.
Hmm.
When you have a specific type of rusher who is more power or finesse, then I think it's on the O line to use different tools, right? So if you know you have a guy that's on the edge, I like to go with hand swipe and all that stuff. I like to talk and practice about big stands, right? So if you always do the same thing as an offensive lineman, as much as I like to say defense players are not the smartest to me, right? But
It's okay
they
to
do
say that
film
on
as
this
well.
channel. We don't have a problem with you saying that. That's fine.
They do film as well on us, right? So if you do the same
Yeah, I agree
thing
with you
over
though.
and
I,
over
I'm
again,
I'm 100% agreement with you that there may not be the sharpest knives in the drawer. That's fine.
that being said, I know some really smart D-line, but I think they're just a small percentage of the rest.
They knew their colors. They knew their colors and could count to 10. That's what made them smart. I guess that's the.
Yeah, but yeah. So knowing what type of rusher you're facing is going to be super important for me. So I
Mhm.
think it's putting an emphasis on that as well. And reading your keys pre-snap, right? It's going to help you a lot, right? So I'm big on feet alignment as well. Understand that with whatever foot is back, depending on how you play, and the more you grow into this game and what level you play, it's not going to be physically efficient from a guy having his left foot back to slant to his right, right? So
Mhm.
on his first step. So stuff like that, you can look at it pre-snap, and it's going to give you a little bit of a sense of what you can expect on that first step, right? So
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff I'm trying to teach my guys to be able to see pre-snap. And I tell all the guys, right, when you go in one-on-ones, it's time to try stuff, right? I don't
Mhm.
expect you to go in one-on-ones and to just win 10 out of 10. I want to see you try stuff, and if you don't try it there, you're never going to do it, right? So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys on your pass blocking rules, are you mostly big on big? Are you guys doing any slide protection and taking it back off the edge and moving sliding it to whatever way you need to go, which would
Yeah, we're
necessitate having be able to do both feet back, right? So if you're sliding the protection to the right, you would want your right foot back, and if you slide it to the left, you want your left foot back, and then if you're big on big, your outside foot's back. I'm assuming is
yeah.
that how you're gonna teach your guys?
Yeah, we're half man, half slide, mostly dogger to blitzer. Your rules the back as well, dogger to blitzer to his side. And now, depending of certain protections, if you're going versus 30 defense or
Mhm.
50 pros, now we're going to go into the dual sort world a little bit, right? Now, you're going to see teams that play differently, right? Some teams like to maybe go more full slide, or they have some fullbacks that can take on D ends one-on-one. Depending with the guys that you have, you can adjust the protections, right? That's the way I learn more with the half man, half slide
Mhm.
with the rules. Now,
Or so you're gonna be big on one side and then slide the other
yeah.
side.
So let's say you have a 60 pro, you have a strong front, the left guard, and the left guard now would be involved in the slide if he has a 2-eye or one
Mhm.
technique, depending how you call it. But he's still locked onto it, right? If that guy
Mhm.
circles back, well, he's got to stay with him. So it's all that stuff that you want to talk with your guys, the different scenarios, the movement. And for me, one thing that's super important, and I find that younger guys coming in don't like. I'm trying to tell those guys, the sooner you learn how to do that, the better you're going to be. Is to play with your eyes. I find
Mm.
the eyes are one of the biggest tools as an offensive lineman that you can use, and I find it's not talked enough.
Mhm.
Like, to play with your eyes. If we talk aiming points or scanning or seeing pre-snap stuff or after the snap, reacting to it. So for me, I think it's something that's really important.
I agree. I'd always say that you could block 2 guys on every play, 1 guy with your eyes and the other guy with your hand or your body so that you get a 2 for there. Because if your eyes aren't on the right spot, probably gonna miss something, and that's gonna be catastrophic to the play, I think, in the big scheme of things. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's get into what's your practice route. I'm assuming you guys play on Saturdays up there? Is that a safe
Yeah,
assumption?
it varies. We play Saturdays, we could play Fridays, sometimes Sundays. It depends of the schedules or where we play or who.
But you're gonna have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday work week or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday
Day one, day
work
two, day
work
three,
week.
day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what do you are you doing anything every day? Is there something that you do every day for your guys? And if what is that you're doing every day? Once practice starts, you're gonna do this drill every day, no matter what. If they're gonna you got weather coming in, you got 10 minutes for an individual, you're doing this drill. What would that be?
Yeah, so we have a pre-practice that we do. So day one is going to be more run, first and 10 emphasis run day, right?
Mm.
So that's where I'm going to do for me more the run stuff, right? The run teach. I'm using that whole day to do only run stuff. Day two is going to be more passing down, right? Like we talk twist pickup,
Mhm.
pass sets, redirect, handwork. So what I try to do is that it stays the same the whole season. So day one, they know what kind of pre-practice they have to do. So I like to work footwork in the run, right? It's going to be always a little bit specific to who we play. So let's say this week we play defense. They want to play with 4 eyes. We're going to
Mhm.
adjust a bit our footwork, the angles. So let's say we're going to work pre-practice with the tight ends, double teams. Now we're going to split it. So we're going to use the boards. They're going to be separated in that double team. So the tight end is going to work his footwork alone, the tackle alone. Then we add the bags. Then we do it together. So that way they just build through the progression.
Mhm.
And when it comes to practice, now they did it so many times already, they're used to it, right? So that's something I try to do a lot in the run game to deconstruct the blocking as much as possible, right? To separate the feet and then add on the strike as well with it and all together with the aiming points and all that stuff, right? Now, when it comes to pass protection, It's going to be about the set angles and the striking, right? So our aiming points in the strikes, how we want to set and be explosive out of that stance as well, right? So we're going to start as well from a knee pre-practice and then into our stance just to build back into it. And when we come after in practice, we're ready to go.
Do you guys incorporate sled work? Do you do any sled work with your
Yeah,
guys? And what kind of sled work
yeah.
are you doing?
I like the Crowder 2-man sled.
Hmm.
That's something I use. Um, I'm gonna use it a lot. I find that sometimes with the sled, you're gonna teach it. You're gonna cheat the technique a bit, right? So I like when I want to work, getting off the ball, working pad level, stuff like that, or
Hmm.
the front side player of a double team, certain strikes you want to work a flipper, stuff like that. So for certain stuff, I like to work on the sled, but most of the time I'm gonna stay with bags or even just go shoulder pads to work
Got it.
the right aiming points and all that stuff, right?
Hmm. Do you do any like a 6 point progression or anything like that with those sleds where you're starting a 6 point stance and 4 point and 3 point and work your way
Yeah.
up through that?
Yeah. Depending on now, the further we are in the season, maybe we go more for 4 point stance and go up,
Hmm.
right? Now, the earlier it is, we're gonna go from 6 points, 4 point, then our stance, which is 2 point or 3 point, depending if you're playing inside, outside. Yeah, and that's something that you can do as well. I find in the off season, right? Take the time to work
Okay.
more through that progression. So yeah.
See, we're down here, we're not allowed in the off season to use sleds. So
Okay.
we'd have to use if we were to do the progression, we would have to use bags. And even bags are limited in what you can do and when you can do it. And it's crazy. If you play basketball, you can play basketball 52 weeks a year down here. No restrictions. You can play baseball fit. You can go, it's great to be a pitcher and throw the ball 52 weeks out of you. That's why all these kids coming out of high school have shoulder injuries and elbow injuries, and they're throwing the ball 52 weeks out of the year, don't take any time off. But football, oh my God, hit a sled in February or April. They call the FBI. They want us all arrested. It's incredible.
Well, I'm not saying we're using the sled a lot in the off season, but it's not like you guys in the States, right? NCAA is such a huge business and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And especially nowadays with those guys being like micro businesses, right? So
Hmm.
for sure, it's taking a different turn. For us, there's rules and all that, but I would say there's not a lot of people making sure those rules are applied or whatever. Like we
Yeah.
have a certain amount of practices that we can do, but we can do some teach work, right? So I'm gonna do teach work without pads, where you're
Got it.
doing footwork, working with bags and all that, just like you guys do as well in the off season in the States, right?
So as you get your guys coached up, you got their eyes on the right spot. You're working on angles and dropping to spots on your pass pro. You're working on striking. You're doing a one hand strike if they're swiping hands, or you're mixing things up to keep them off balance. You got your run block that you're working through with the bags or the sled. What's your favorite scheme? What's your go to scheme? Your first and 10. What do you like to run?
I like it to stay simple for the only reason that I want the guys to be able to come off the ball and don't have to think. So I'm a big fan of just running the inside zone, but running the
Inside zone.
ball.
Okay.
Right now, there's different ways to run it. Like for me, duo is looking like an inside zone in some way, right? It's not gonna be that
Hmm.
much different for O-line. Now you're gonna teach different techniques. Like this winter, I was watching a clinic from Jim McNally talking about duo. It was quite impressive how he was talking about that simple play in a really complex way, right?
Yeah.
With the techniques and all that you can use, the footwork, the different type of footwork that you want to use. So for me, offensive lineman is about doing the same thing over and over again and being really good at it, right?
Hmm.
I see a lot of times, even at younger levels, coaches that want to be like really cute in their schemes and all that and complex. Now, on paper, sometimes it might look good, but you got to adjust as well to the guys that you have, right? For
Yeah.
me, it's about being efficient, and you want those big guys to not have to think that much and be able to be physical up front, right? So
Yeah. I agree with that.
now, to sprinkle some gap scheme here and there when you can and all that, I like it, but I'm really a heavy zone guy in general. Now you can add some bands and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to at the end execute the same play on the offensive line, but it shows a different
Right.
play for the defense, right?
Right. It's funny you said Coach McNally. I had a chance to meet him one time. He came down to campus, right? I think it was right after I got done playing. I was starting to do a little bit of coaching on campus after I got done playing, and he came into the. I think he was maybe recruiting one of the guys or checking one of the guys out for a draft, or I don't know what it was, but he was in our offensive line coach's office, and he started. Coach asked him a question, and he got up and started talking, and he started drawing the feet of the offensive line guy on the diagram that he was drawing. And he drew feet. And I was like, he goes, so I need this foot to be right here, and this foot to be right here, and this foot to be right here. And I was like, I was just, I was thinking line up in the right spot. He broke it down and was drawing the feet up on the board and how far the step should be and all that kind of stuff. It blew me away that I realized that I had a long ways to go to, not that I want to achieve the levels that he is, but I got a long ways to go just to be pretty good as far as understanding and going on and on and on about that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to run you're running inside zone because it's simple and you can kind of dress it up with motions and shifts and, different guys coming in and leading or leaving and going away and all that kind of stuff. So I like that. That's a good thing. What's your go-to pass play? What do you like to run? You running you guys running 5 and 7-step drops? I'm assuming like that doesn't change much, does it? From up there to down here?
Yeah, it's gonna be you can have quick passes as well. We call them 360 pros, 60, 70 pros, play actions, deeper rollouts, all that stuff, right? So it's not going to change really from what you guys know. It's just going to be maybe different in the routes. Like I'm not an expert now in the routes and all that stuff. Like the space that you're going to cover, the depth of the routes, with our field being more wide and longer, windows are going to be different, right? So yeah, but for me, pass protection.
Do you want to get it down the field? Are you a quick guy, like throw it out, let the receiver get it at the line of scrimmage and run some tunnel screen type stuff, get some big guys out in front of them? Or you trying to get it down the field a little bit, like a medium range, like a drive or mesh concept or screen? I like the cross route. I like the sail, the sail, the cross, and the dig on the backside. That's my favorite. We call it cross. I don't know if, people probably have all sorts of different names for it, but
yeah,
I think that route's just dirty. I think if you can get the protection and get those guys open, somebody's going to be there all the time. But I do like the tunnel screen too. I think if I can see a big guy hit a defensive back, that's my favorite.
Yeah, that's one thing that's different as well for us in tunnel screens. Like those DBs are further away at times, right? With our field. So it's going to be more, you're going to see more running back screens, receivers coming back is going to happen. There's a bunch of screens that you can do. It's just, it takes a lot of timing and repetition, right? And right now in the team I coach in, we're a staff that's been there for the last 2 years. It's newer, right? So it took some time to change a bit the verbiage, how the guys understand all that stuff. So we're getting there slowly but surely, right? So, but I like screens. That's something I did a lot in college as well with my team, Laval, right? We had running back screens, receiver screens, ones that we were stepping in the run, pushing, going around on the screen, the ones that you were popping out, faking, going right away, letting the guy go through. So we had a bunch of different screens that we worked on, right? So I like that as well. I think it's a good change up. I think it's a dead play mentally as well if you want for the quarterback, so that can take away a bit of workload on his shoulders. Other than that, pass protection, I learned something from a coach I had in the CFL, and I found it was a great quote. For offensive linemen, sometimes we say it's a quick pass, that the ball should be out and whatever. It takes how much time it takes. And that's how you should think as an offensive lineman. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, stop thinking about it's a 5-step, it's a quick pass or whatever. It's going to take how much time it takes, and it's our job to protect for as long as we can.
As long as it takes, yeah.
Yeah, so I really like that when I heard that, and I think that's just something that for me, you want to run whatever concept you want, we have to do our job, and that's how I see it.
That's phenomenal. All right, well, getting close to the end here. What is do you guys recruit down here in the States? Like, are you guys strictly Canadian recruiting? How do you guys bring talent into Concordia? What's the game plan for that?
Yeah, so we recruit mostly in Quebec, in Canada. Okay. We have guys from not Montreal that sometimes we try to recruit, but mostly our roster is going to be 95% in Quebec, right? So Concordia in the previous years, they had some Americans. They had in the past coaches that were Americans as well. Had a Mickey Donovan who played there as well back in the days, who were phenomenal players. So they bring, when I was playing in Laval and I played against Concordia, I played against some Americans. So yeah, we can here and there sometimes have some guys. And now if there's any American that sometimes it happens, they know a player, because there's a lot of Americans that play in the CFL as well, right? So they know someone and now they want to come in Canada maybe to switch, transfer, whatever, and have a
Mhm.
shot to go in the CFL because they see maybe the NFL is not going to be an option for them or whatever, right? So it's going to happen. Sometimes we receive a lot of guys communicating with us at times. It's just the cost is going to be different because they're a stranger student they call or whatever. So the fees
Okay.
are different. So I think it's not as expensive as in the US for college. But yeah, so there's differences like that. So it could happen at times, but mostly our recruiting is going to be made
Okay.
in Quebec or Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my last question as we get ready to round this up, and I know that you're in season, and you said it was a bye week, but still, the bye weeks are for rest and relaxing. So I don't want to eat too much of your time. I
It's
want you to
all
be able
good.
to just catch up and maybe get a good night's sleep for once. Particularly here in America, and I'm sure it's the same in Canada. I assume that the offensive line animal in Canada is the same as the offensive line animal in America, and have some of the same qualities. And I would say that the offensive line guy in America is probably one of the offensive linemen on the team is the biggest character on the team. He's the practical joker. He's the funny dude. He always has something funny to say or different way of looking at something that's going to be outside the box and just be hysterical. So is that also the case for the Canadian offensive line guy as well? Does that hold true?
Yeah, 100%. I will say like the offensive line position is just a bunch of guys that stick together, and it's like I would like to say it's a team inside the team.
Yes.
Offensive line at every level that I played or anywhere, it's been like that, right? So I think it's just a special group inside of a football team that just happens to be like that, right?
Is there one guy that sticks out or a funny story that sticks out in your mind that you could share with us that's G-rated, I guess, would be the the best way to go about saying that. Is there any one particular story that sticks out in your mind or one
I
character
don't
guy that
I don't necessarily have one story, but I had a guy that finished last year, who was just like talking all the time.
yeah.
It was crazy. He already had something to say about the story. Like every time off that we had, he was just like taking the show on. So it was kind of crazy to see how every time that we had off or just any moment just taking water, he had time to crack it. Like his brain was spinning so fast compared to everyone. It was just crazy to see how it went. But I don't have any. It's been only recently that I started coaching full time. Right, I had
Yeah.
stories as a player as well. But yeah, I find that every room that I had the chance to be coach or player, offensive line, I've been part of great groups. Like right now, like no matter how the season could go or whatever, I'm just fortunate to coach a great group of guys and human beings, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's a big part of what we do, right? Yes, we coach football, we help guys we try to win some games and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, you just hope those guys, when they end up finishing with college, they just had a great experience and enjoyed
Yeah.
it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you for your time. As we get ready to head out of here, why don't you tell me about your Instagram, your OL prototype? Where can they
Yeah.
find that? And you put a lot of content up there. You're analyzing a bunch of stuff. So where can someone that's interested in hearing more about how you do things, where can they find you?
Yeah. So we're on Instagram, O-line prototype. So it's a business that we started 2 years ago. It's a branch from Linebacker Prototype, was the original company. We're starting
Mhm.
DB Prototype as well this year. So we're trying to help guys from everywhere, right? So we're helping guys online. We have our website as well, which is on our Instagram page. Our goal was really to build that thing, especially here in Quebec, Montreal. Like when I was young, there's always QB camps, receiver camps,
Mhm.
skills camps, right? But there's nothing for the big guys. And we wanted to offer a platform, a structure for the guys that want to get better. And we see more and more guys. When I was young, you were playing offensive lineman. It was like at times, yeah, they're playing O-line, whatever, right? And I see more and more young guys that really enjoy playing that
Mhm.
position at a young age and to dominate people physically on the field, moving around and being nasty and all that stuff. So if you're a guy that really wants just to take his game to another level to dominate, or you're a newer guy, you want to get better because you feel you're behind others, we're the perfect fit for you. Like we really built a great structure to help you not only physically but mentally. We work the IQ as well. We work yoga as well. So we tried to build a lot of different aspects to really help you elevate your game. And yeah, some people just messaged us by the page, just looking at our content and
Mhm.
how they learn stuff, just looking at this page, right? So our goal is really to help as much offensive linemen out there as possible. Yeah, That's it.
That's phenomenal. And I'll have that list down there in the comments on the YouTube channel, and I'm sure you'll see some of this collaboration out and about on the various social media platforms as we get going. So, Coach, thank you so much. Congratulations on a career well earned, and all the honors and recognitions you had there. And go pour into those guys and make them better up front each day. And as you guys, I think you said you had 2 or 3 games left on the season. Hope you guys finish strong. And remember, if you can master the trenches, you'll win the war. Take care.